Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from explodeybrain, who says, my 23 female boyfriend, 23 male, of 3 years stealthily took my 11-year-old dog to the vet 80 kilometers away to be put to sleep. It was only luck I found out and got him back. Boyfriend doesn't know I have my dog back, but he comes back tomorrow night. Now, I don't think I need to give you these trigger warnings, but just in case you did miss it, it contained dog napping and attempted killing of the pet. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. My boyfriend, Jay, left for a trip up the coast to help family on Friday morning. While I was at work Friday, I got a phone call from one of my ex-flatmates, Bob, who I lived with at uni. He thought he had my dog with him and phoned me because someone had dropped him off to the vet surgery he worked at to be put to sleep. Bob sent me pics and it was my Stixie. I'd recognize him anywhere. I grew up with him and he was so close to me. When I left home to study, there was no questions about it. Stixie stayed with me. Bob kept Stixie with him and I drove to pick him up as soon as I was out of work. Bob also showed me a phone recording he took of the vet's security camera screen, and there's no doubt in the world it's Jay dropping him off. He's even wearing the same clothes he left in this morning before I went to work. Jay has texted me a few times today, and I don't know why, but I'm not confronting him about this. I'm actually scared I will utterly lose it at him. I'm running everything through my head on why he'd do this. We talk sometimes about moving north to be near his family, or overseas within a few years. I can't believe I'm trying to find reasons for him to do what he did, or reasons for me not to rip him a new one and dump everything he owns out on the front lawn and set fire to it tonight. I'm half numb and half stunned beyond rational thought. Why can't I get functionally angry here? He texted me this morning like he normally does when he's away. I replied like normal though. We're not big text talkers anyway. He asked me a couple of times if I was okay. Everything in the text I'm trying to read into what the hell he thinks he's hiding. Holy moly, that is absolutely terrifying. The only thing that kept that dog alive was this ex-flatmate who happened to work at that specific clinic 80 kilometers away. That is terrifying. And I imagine the only reason you're not angry in air quotes right now is because you're in shock. Your brain's trying to protect itself from like, what the fuck is going on? What is going through that guy's head? I'm kind of thinking about legality behind this. I mean, you thought surely that would be a legal thing to do, right? But Sultan Linen says, well, that's terrifying. Do you have a place, a friend's maybe, where you and Stixie can stay for a bit while this gets sorted out? And by this I mean your new living situation. Because you really can't continue to live with a guy who just tried to kill your dog behind your back. Opie says, thanks for your comment. I do. At least 2 co-workers would be okay with me contacting them. I want people around me when he comes back. I wish I could make sure he knows he's no longer welcome in this home, nor can he come back. He needs to go immediately. But I also know by bitter experience with a friend that kicking someone out of the dwelling they live in is a long process. So within that same day, Opie turned to a legal advice subreddit and says, I have a dog Stixie who's 11. Yesterday morning my boyfriend left to go up the coast to see family. He doesn't return until Sunday night. By sheer luck and nothing else, an ex-flatmate of mine working at a vet clinic 80 kilometers from me called me while I was at work and asked if a dog someone had brought in to be put to sleep was my Stixie. It was. I had him hold Stixie and I collected him Friday. My flatmate showed me a recording he made of a security video at the vet clinic, and it's definitely my ex dropping Stixie off. How illegal is this? I currently live in a flat that I rent and my boyfriend pays half, but I'm the only one on the lease. I want him out ASAP, or I want to be out of this situation as soon as possible. What options do I not have? A friend of mine once tried to have a violent ex removed and it took months. I want to be out of this immediately. Are my only options to move? How do I protect myself from what my boyfriend, ex to me now, though he doesn't know it yet, may do to the place I rent when I return? I presume my landlord couldn't kick him out if I leave right away. He's never shown any weird tendencies before, so maybe I'm overthinking this. My boyfriend doesn't know I know what he did, nor that I have Stixie back. Sorry for the scattergun of questions. I'm scatterbrained at the moment, and he only returns in 20 hours or so. I don't ever want to see so much of a hair on his head again. Someone says not legal advice. Keep your dog somewhere else. If he has access to him, who knows what will happen. Another commenter says, seconded. Can you afford to board him or have a trusted family member watch him until this douchebag is gone? And I would call that vet to report what he did if your friend hasn't. It might not help you now, but they should be aware. Commenter says, and then ask where the dog is and how much he's going to lie about it. OP added in the comments and said, just got off the phone with my workmate. She's offered to come here overnight and she'll be here soon. We'll figure out what to do in the morning. I really appreciate all your posting. It only took reading a few to take myself out of this stupid stalled state of mind and move into action. It's after midnight here. I'm going to crash hard tonight. OP then added what they title as their update 1 and said, edit and quick update. A night's sleep with good people around me helped. I phoned a workmate to see if I could go and stay there with Stixie, and she came over here for the night instead. We spoke and we have a plan. Thank you for the links to NSW laws. It looks like I might be in the clear with forcing my ex out. I'm a renter. I'm the only name on the lease and we have no written agreement. From my understanding, he is a boarder or lodger and can be removed quickly. I'll have to clarify, of course, but that gives me confidence. I was freaking out because I didn't know where to start last night. My ex will be confronted with more people I know in the house backing me up. Stixie is also in good health. He's 11 and a bit too fat and slower than he used to be, but he's fine. These photos are from early November when we visited a property out of town. He started life as a farm dog and going back made his day. And unfortunately, the pet tax no longer works, so we couldn't see it. And says he's not microchipped. I'm taking a personal leave day on Monday and getting him chipped first thing. Update 2, he came back. He lied. I was upset and looked it. We gave him enough rope to make excuse after changing excuse. First he was shocked Stixie was gone and would help look for him. Then he was shocked someone took him to a vet to be put down. Then when confronted with proof it was him, he claimed Stixie was hit by a car and he had to end his suffering. When confronted with a live happy Stixie, he turned it around and it ended with him telling me he should have had me put down. What the hell? My co-worker and her partner and I told him he was not welcome in the house anymore and that they were moving in with me. And everyone in the house and the neighbor we both get on well with who saw him return on Friday to take Stixie now knows what kind of person he is. He left of his own accord and took some of his stuff. I'm no closer to knowing for sure why he tried what he did. Sorry for jamming up legal advice with this one. There wasn't much of a legal ending. Oh my word, and the updates didn't get any less chilling, did they? I mean, it revealed everything you needed to know about that guy's character. He was caught red-handed, trying to kill OP's dog. But then, when he was confronted about it, responded, his partner should be killed instead of the pet they tried to murder themselves. Oh my word. And I'm so glad all of this came out when it did and OP was able to get himself away from this person. But as I say in a lot of these stories, and I know it doesn't help the situation at all, but I always find it really unsettling is that this guy, this J guy, is out there somewhere, probably twisting this version of the story about what a crazy ex he had and rewriting his own story in his own head. Because people like this don't suddenly develop any self-awareness or remorse, they just find new victims. What an absolutely scary story. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Same Poet 8990 and says, I think my wife's best friend is developing feelings for me and my wife doesn't want to believe me because it's her best friend. Okay, yes, I'm aware I'm going to sound arrogant and like a narcissist. Get over it. My wife and I have known each other in total 20-ish years. We have dated for 9, married for 5. She has known her best friend, D, since end of high school / early college. They're like sisters. D has horrible luck with guys, abusive relationships, toxic relationships. She's had it all and some. I know this because she vents about it to my wife and me all the time. Recently, she just got through a particular rough relationship, which she decided she was no longer going to date and just be single for a while. She began making comments to my wife about how lucky she is that she has me, and it must make her feel so good to have a supporting, caring, loving man in her life to take care of her. This is when her changed behavior began. She's been very clingy to me. She never was before. When she comes over, head on my shoulder, sitting on my lap, she tells me all the time that I make her feel safe and comfortable. She always asks how my day is going and if I'm happy to see her, or how I think her body looks in her outfit. Which she kinda did before, but now she draws attention to her feminine areas. A joke was made by my wife about D being my second wife to do all the stuff my wife doesn't feel like doing. D jumped onto this and now refers too often enough as second wife. My wife thinks it's funny, and it wasn't until D sent me a picture of a ring she wanted, because even your second wife needs a ring. I've brought all this up to my wife. I don't want to keep her in the dark about anything, and she just says things like, that's just her, or she doesn't mean anything by it. My fear is that D is getting what she's never gotten from any of her past relationships: comfort, validation, safety, and that she will become attached to this sort of fantasy. I don't want my wife to think I'm doing anything behind her back, but as I have stated, she just brushes it all off. Am I just being too observant, or is there something there my wife isn't seeing? Thoughts? SoCal says, just have 2 wives. Problem solved. Momo says, as a female with a lot of guy friends, there is a huge difference in confiding with someone and then sitting in someone's lap. That to me seems like there's more to it. I'd chat with your wife and see where she stands with it. Opie replies saying she brushes it all off. I've brought up everything that has happened, left nothing out. Momo replies and says you're allowed to have boundaries. Just because she's okay with it, and even if your wife is, doesn't mean you are, and that deserves to be respected. I find it odd she doesn't see anything weird about it. Females are hyper aware of what they're doing. Opie says, are you suggesting that my wife may see something there and not care? And you said that you might sound arrogant at the start of this, and I don't think that at all. You sound really concerned about what's going on, and I think, like yourself, I would be concerned as well. I think you'd be absolutely right to set your own boundaries in this situation, regardless of what your wife thinks, because this can't carry on where you're having to protect yourself and, keep going to your wife and say, oh, she did this, she did that, while you're being dismissed constantly. You didn't need anyone's permission to establish what makes you uncomfortable in this situation, and maybe just turn to your wife and say something like that you need her support to keep this boundary up because you feel like you're not being listened to here and you're worried about what's going on. But Opie comes in with her first update and says thank you for everyone's input and advice on my situation. On that note, there have been some questions I keep seeing, so I will answer some below. Sitting on my lap. This has only happened twice. Both instances were at parties where there was no seating left where I was sitting. I actually offered her my seat, which she said thanks and sat on my lap. Yes, both times were in front of my wife, and she thought it was funny. So rather than make a scene by kicking her off, I waited till an opportunity came. Needed more food or drink, bathroom, etc. Is she hot or am I attracted to her? By society standards, she would be very attractive. By society standards, my wife would not be as attractive. That being said, my wife is exactly what I want in a woman, just speaking physically at the moment. My wife is short, very pale skin, long curly brown hair, and not skinny because of the children we have had together. I love my wife the way she is, and we're working together to help her lose the baby fat she wants to lose. D, on the other hand, is taller than me. I'm 5'10", tan skin, straight dirty blonde hair, and skinny. Again, attractive, just not what I'm into. Okay, now for the update. Talked to my wife about everything going on and my concerns about it, using some points people brought up in the comments. Turns out my wife is aware of the situation and is actually partially behind it. Apparently she brought up the idea of using me to show her best friend what to look for in a guy was a good idea. But it has gone a little farther than she thought it would. Forgive her, she had good intentions. So we're both going to sit down with D and talk about everything next time she comes over. So it was a couple of days after this that OP came in with another update and said, firstly, thank you everyone for your good advice. This will be the last update to this crazy series of events. Now let's get to what you're all waiting for. The update. D came over, we all sat down at the table. The kids are at their aunt's for the night. I stated that I wanted everything to come out, all the cards on the table. I want to know everything. So this is what went down. D has always had awful luck with men. She vents to me and my wife about it all the time. During a conversation when I wasn't present, D had said something along the lines of, wishing she could find a man like yours because she will never know what it feels like to be genuinely wanted and appreciated. My wife made a bad decision and in trying to comfort her friend suggested treating me more like a boyfriend than just a good friend. Nothing physical, just the support and comfort and validation for a little to get an idea of what to look for in a man. Dee said she was fine with that. But when she started to get it from me, she wanted more and more and more and started to cross boundaries to get it. The lap sitting, that kind of stuff. I asked my wife about it and she said it caught her by surprise but didn't exactly make her uncomfortable with her friend. It was actually the mentioning of Dee wanting a ring that she finally started to see this was getting out of control. Wife said she realized she messed up, but didn't want to say anything to me about it. I explained to both of them very thoroughly about how ridiculous this entire thing is, how there are better ways we all could have helped, how this could have destroyed friendships and marriages. They should have come to me and we all could have figured out ways to help each other together. There were apologies from both parties. Dee is still our friend and should be coming over in a few days for us to discuss how she can potentially work on herself and things to look for in men she has an interest in dating. My wife is very sorry to Dee and me about the entire thing. So in the end, my wife made a mistake that she is remorseful for, learned from, and will come out better for it. Dee will have help working on herself and working towards a healthier future. And then there's me, tired and I want a beer, lol. Thank you again for everyone for your good words and advice. I'm sorry this isn't the outcome you hoped, thought, or predicted, but life is unpredictable, and I'm glad this is over. Oh, and there will be no threesome. Someone quotes that and says, not with that attitude there won't. Another commenter says, many are saying he fumbled the three-way. Honestly, I think OP is a solid dude and he handled it awesomely. Not everything on the internet is a plot of a porno. Chloe says, sorry, but your wife owes you more than an apology. If the genders were reversed in this, so many people would be telling you to call the police and get a divorce lawyer, etc. Because it would have been a wife who'd been harassed and physically molested by a husband's friend, despite her clearly not wanting him to do it. But because your wife and her friend are women, nobody is pointing out how serious this is to you. And in that scenario, everyone would be questioning why the husband would want to be friends with a man who sexually harasses his mate's wives. But again, nobody's saying this to you. And you seem to think it's okay for your wife to continue her friendship with this woman, and frankly, it isn't. Your wife not only allowed, but encouraged someone to sexually harass and molest you. Unwanted physical contact. Yep, sitting on your lap, leaning on your shoulder, feeling you up. Unwanted text messages. Yep. Texting pictures of rings and shit. Unwanted comments. Yep. Wish I had a man like you. And I assumed the feminine areas mentioned were her tits and ass, so I assumed the question she was asking were along the lines of, does this show too much cleavage, and does this make my ass look good, and how big do my boobs look in this top, etc. Also, no sane person would agree to treat someone, never mind their friend's spouse, like a partner in any sense, much less without discussing it with said spouse first. But because they're women, they think it's harmless and no harm, no foul. This wasn't a mistake or an error in judgment. Nobody is this stupid. Mrs. 239 says, no way in hell am I offering up my man as some pacifier to another woman. What was the wife thinking? And I absolutely agree with those comments. That is absolutely despicable behavior from the wife in this. And I'm not sure how you move past it so easily. It just feels like so incomplete. Like, yeah, sure, everyone's apologizing. They're going to help Dee work on herself, but there's no mention of actual boundaries moving forward. What happens next time Dee gets lonely? Are we just trusting that this isn't going to happen again? And the wife has allowed this woman to harass him and sit on him and and is sat there laughing about it, knowing previously that she's approved this kind of behavior. And sure, OP looks like, you know, they want to move past this situation, but I can't help but think about the Weiss mentality in this and still having this D person in their life after all this has gone on. Such a weird ass scenario. But hey, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah,